Hi, good evening, everybody. It's Big Chonus, May 30th, 2018. You can follow me on Twitter at Big Chonus. We're going to take a look at some crypto, some Bitcoin charts, some alt charts, try and get a sense of what's going on in the crypto space. I am just a guy that likes looking at charts. I've been doing trading and investing in the overall stock market and day trading in crypto for several years now. And I've seen a lot. I feel I've learned a lot, and I want to share that with everybody out there. Kind of what I've been going through and have gone through in the trading world, and all that experience I feel I've gained to kind of get me where I am today. So let's get into it. Thank you for joining me, and let's talk some Bitcoin. So current price 73.51. We've had this pullback obviously from our top off, a hair under 10,000. We were unable to break 10,000 a couple weeks ago, and basically we've almost given back most of that mega green candle we had back on April 12th. Now, I'm going to start off with some dates because what we keep seeing is something around between the 4th and the 6th of every month recently. February, March, we had a top off. Beginning of April, we basically had our bottoming. And as we get closer to June 6th, June 5th, June 6th, something in that area there, we could be finding our next bottoming area. Now, we had a bounce yesterday. We were able to find support basically still above 7,000 area. A lot of people were looking for that break of 7,000 to bring us lower, 6,800 potentially, maybe even lower. But we were able to hold above 7,000 by a few bucks. And we had a nice green candle, and we were able to kind of build above that. Now, we did break down earlier this morning, but we were able to hold a very interesting area. We've seen several times, especially on our recent rise, where we basically were able to, pull back a lot from every nice move we had, but we just held to a higher low from several previous areas that we have been to over the past couple days, because we were able to hold that price point even with these red candles here and this pretty massive volume dump as well. You could argue that we are still putting in a slight uptrend here. Now, from our bottoming a couple days ago, basically potentially short term, a little over 7,000, we are putting in some sort of an uptrend here. Now, we are finding a lot of resistance, right here, in this 7,000, let's say 500 area here. And that's going to be tough to break because we had a lot of hours. This is the hourly chart, over the day to try and break it. And we kind of peeked your head over a couple times, but we were unable to hold and close on the hourly. And then the bulls kind of gave up, which led to this drop here. So we are basically in this ascending triangle right now, where we're finding strong resistance a little over $7,500. Now, there's a very good chance that we could test this again. And if we do test this again, there's probably a very good chance we're going to break it. And if we do break it, it even leads to more stronger resistance areas, just a few $100s higher, and then a few $100s higher. I guess 8,000 psychologically is going to be that really next potentially hard point if we can get up there. That's $700. And, in the history of Bitcoin, that doesn't seem like a lot of money. It's basically a 9% move from where we're at now, right now. But it kind of seems like it's so hard to get there based on all this buy volume that we're just not seeing. This bounce here, which I really want to try and compare to back over here, where we basically were able to confirm a bottom. We had our first kind of wave here of impulse, and I remember this down candle where we thought, oh, it's going to fall apart again. But we actually held a higher low, and that led to this kind of pump move here, which created this entire uptrend all through April. So are we putting in that similar pattern where we have this, oh, we've kind of potentially bottomed and have a nice move up, and then, oh no, it's a fake out, we're kind of going back down again, but we actually were able to hold a very important area here right around 72 and change. This is all short-term stuff here. I mean, we're trying to nitpick, the hours and trying to find a trend and a this and a that and $100 here, $100 there. What are we really talking about here? We're talking about it becomes increasingly hard for Bitcoin based on a lack of money flow, really, to drive the price high and get those kind of big moves we had seen earlier in the year when we were closer to our unwinding of our parabolic move. And when we came basically and topped off at close to $20,000, there was so much potential energy still built up in the price that we were able to get through all these massive moves. And I remember, there were days where we moved $1,000, $700, $800, $1,000 in 24-hour period. So massive moves because there was enough volume, there was enough money flow, and there was enough people basically trying to flip, buy, and sell throughout these moments here, months ago. We're not there anymore. This is a different market we have now. We have lower volumes, we have lower volatility. Almost seems like $200-$300 move now is like an epic move, and in the grand scheme of things, it really hasn't been in terms of Bitcoin. So this is a very treacherous area here where for a couple $100, we could definitely basically begin to kind of turn around here. And there is opportunity to get and touch this $800 level. It's going to be a tough grind, though. I mean, you have to ask yourself, is there going to be money flow coming in when? If we break a certain trend line, if we break a certain resistance line, are these the catalyst? If we can get up a couple $100 here, is that what's going to bring us the next, $500 to get us to 8,000? Kind of see how the market responds to that, because at 8,000, there's a lot of resistance now. Basically, where we were here, we blew right through it, and just to think about, wow, if I'm not buying it at $7,300 here, but I do like it at 8,000 if we're able to get there. I mean, is 8,000 touch supposed to make me feel bullish? Because now it's a really strong resistance. That's kind of where we were able to break out of back in early April. And then it's kind of what kind of kept us alive for the past couple days recently, a couple weeks heading into May. And that just broke through there. So now it's 8,000 is a stronger resistance level than it had been previously. So there's still a lot of tremendous downward pressure still, on the price of Bitcoin. From our top off here at roughly, let's call it 10,000, but it really wasn't, even though I think it hit 10,000 in one of the exchanges, but most of them were 99, 90 something and change here. So this line here, and again, we're not in log, we're in linear. If we go log, we buy ourselves, a couple more days here in terms of price. This rejection line is definitely still in play, but you see how farther out it goes, and every day that trend line gets a little lower and a little lower. So 75, 76, $7,700, like these become much harder resistance levels to break. So when we do break them, if we are able to break them, that even makes that break them up more important, because right now, every day we drop or go sideways, these become stronger areas of resistance. Let's kind of go out to the daily and look at kind of some of the indicators here in terms of where we are, to RSI and what have you. Now, we were able to bounce on the RSI right here. We were not even able to touch 30, which we did break through back in February's low. And again, a little above 30 did hold in the first part of April. So once again, 31, 30 and change has been on the RSI, has been a very strong support level, tested twice here. A third test, that's what's scary, because normally when things test in threes, they don't hold either on the up or the down. So if we were going to test this 30 level for a third time on the daily RSI, I would expect a break of that. And that's what we're talking about. That's when we're talking about a potential great, entry opportunity for some sort of a flip on a long, or more or less really just setting the tone of the entire, crypto space, which really affects every altcoin out there. Now, historically, we see areas where RSI on the daily has been super oversold. Going back down to 18, to 16, to 19, 26. So even a break of 30 doesn't necessarily mean we have bottomed, for that short term. We have several examples of a much lower daily RSI. So don't let that fool you. Even if we do break it, that is not necessarily that bottoming moment. Now, we do have an uptick on the stock RSI that's bullish. We still have this continued declining volume. We still have this continued declining OBV. On the weekly chart, we're about halfway through this week here. We see bearishness a little bit in the stock RSI. We're still trending down. OBV is, stable basically. The RSI is still heading lower, even though we are finding some support in this area here at around 41 or so. We really want to hold above 40. That's a very important area in the weekly RSI to hold. If we break that 40, then there's a very good possibility that the 30 RSI on the weekly could be in play. We haven't been there since 2015. So we've been on this basically super strong uptrend in RSI. We broke that basically at the beginning of this year. And now we're just trying to hold this kind of historic trend line here. We really want to hold this area here in the weekly. Let's talk about Litecoin. Weekly as well, we still have a downtick in the stock RSI. Our regular RSI is kind of hovering around 43, so it's still kind of pretty good in terms of, chances to go either way here. Now, we have our wick here on the weekly that has brought us 1, 2, 3, and we are in our fourth week currently of red. Halfway through, we're putting in this kind of inconclusive doji. The 55 EMA, which is this yellow line here, I believe still can be a target for the price to hit. Now that's if we break 100 on the down. Right now we're still holding this area here, but I just can't see it holding. Again, this is corresponding with a Bitcoin break of 7,000. If we go into the 6,900, 6,800 area on Bitcoin, what's Litecoin going to be? If we break 109, we held 110. We held what was the low here? There's 109.27 cents on Coinbase. If we break that, because we were able to hold it by under $1 when we bought them like a day ago, 2 days ago. If we're able to hold this area here, that's great. But if we break 109, we're going to test 100. We're just going to test 100. And it will hold. 100 will hold the first attempt. We'll probably get down to 101. Maybe we might even break it and get down to 99. I just know as soon as we break 100, and if we do end up breaking 100, which we probably will break 100 if we get to testing 100, that there'll be a quick bounce from that 100 area to at least 110, probably, quickly. Just the shock of Litecoin under $100 after its amazing run it had will be such a jarring moment where it will feel cheap at that moment, and there'll be a nice kind of bounce from that. But what price level does a $100 Litecoin price correspond to? Bitcoin is going to have to go down to $6,500 potentially, $6,600, because we're still not seeing a lot of bearish divergence on the Litecoin to Bitcoin ratio yet. Now, this is the weekly, and I've drawn this kind of support trend line here, and you see that the Litecoin to Bitcoin ratio, you basically see when Bitcoin ran, Litecoin tanked in terms of its ratio, because Litecoin basically stood still when Bitcoin did its $10,000 to $20,000 run. And then when Bitcoin started to pull back, that's when Litecoin went parabolic. And that's basically this candle right here in mid-December, let's call it. But now we see precedent for a retest of this line here that we have basically held as support here, and we had established as support earlier here back in the beginning of 17, and potentially are going to retest, somewhere, let's say, in mid to end of summer. Now, what does that correspond with? If we get down here to a 0.012 Litecoin to Bitcoin ratio, basically a 1 and change percent of the price to Litecoin to Bitcoin, does that correspond to a bottoming area of Bitcoin? It's a very interesting point here, because this area here basically correspond with a separation, bearish, of Litecoin to Bitcoin, and then Litecoin caught up. So a Litecoin to Bitcoin ratio price at 1.2%, 1.3% of Bitcoin means that Bitcoin is running bullishly and not yet taking Litecoin with it. But that's kind of changed when Bitcoin tops off, which we've seen several times here, and then Litecoin rocket ships up to catch up. So that could be this play here, but we still have, on the weekly, we have months, at least weeks to play out in that. Go to the daily. This is the ratio chart here. So you see for quite a while, at least in the next couple of months here, Litecoin and Bitcoin are lockstep. Litecoin is following directly the price action, give or take a couple percent of what Bitcoin does. Let's look at Ethereum. Now, daily chart, we tried to, but we were not able to put in a bullish engulfing on our really nasty bearish candle we had the previous day. Yesterday is kind of the indecision doji, kind of bearish. The wick on the top is longer. We topped out at around 584. Now we did bottom at 507. This is an $80 up on the Ethereum here. That was a great trade if you were able to get in Ethereum in the teens, let's say, and kind of scale out after 550, 560 broke. That was a great trade there. I think a lot of people took profit if they were able to make that trade. But are we still unwinding from our bottoming area there? On our daily chart here, we can kind of see we really haven't touched the 0.78 on the Fibonacci. We're kind of still hanging out on the 0.61. More bullishly, able to hold that support here. Let's go a little closer. Let's go to the 1 hour. So similarly with Bitcoin, we had this nice pop here. We are still holding this higher low. Wick to wick, look at that. Wick to wick became our resistance here, is now our support here. So we are still bullishly moving higher, even though it's weak AF. And we're not seeing the volume yet. But as long as we kind of hold this line here, short term, we can totally trickle up and try and find that next push higher. If we break this line, and especially if we break this support here, I'd say right around 540 to 535, definitely we could continue our downtrend. And that really would correspond with a declining Bitcoin price as well. Quick here at Bitcoin Cash. Now, it's kind of interesting here, on the daily, on the fib, you see we basically were able to find support right at the 786. It's had a bigger pullback than Ether did, but also had, from percentage gain, a much bigger rise. And I talked about a couple of episodes ago how a lot of this green momentum here wasn't a lot of support here. So we were kind of blow through this on the down a lot easier because we didn't get a lot of chances to correct and find a little more stronger levels of support to kind of break out here. So as we were able to find support at the 786 level, right around 865, 870 area here, we're kind of bouncing around here. Now, similarly with Bitcoin, if Bitcoin begins to fade, we would definitely kind of fade as well on Bitcoin Cash. But if Bitcoin does hold up, you kind of see where our next kind of potential moves could be. And this is important here because Bitcoin Cash had our biggest move from a percentage rise here. If we are able to bottom here and actually find a nice move up, it could still have several $1,000s left in an upward move, only corresponding with an upward Bitcoin move. If Bitcoin does not move, and basically we're totally going to retest, lower areas. And because we had so many green candles there, we still have, I would say, several $100s of lack of strong support, basically down to 774 would basically be our next area. I would say 775 if Bitcoin breaks that $7,000 area here. We could definitely see more bearishness on, Bitcoin Cash and Ether and Litecoin in correspondence to Bitcoin as well. Bitcoin actually held up a little better. These are alts, so a lot of the alts have been holding up a little worse. Now, currently today, let's go to some alts here. A couple random ones: Blitz, Synergy, Swift. These are kind of our, today, meaning the last couple hours, some alts, some winners here. Mana is actually one that's kind of interesting here. Um, it's on a little uptrend here. It has actually been able to find some support right around 1157 Satoshi, and has basically had these two nasty wicks from the hourly, but is actually able to find a little more bullish buying there. It's kind of interesting here. I've done a couple of charts on Mana in the past. We're seeing this higher low pattern, continue with Mana. And because we're able to hold here and put in a higher low compared to what was resistance here and resistance here. So this could be a bullish chart as long as we're able to hold here. I like this. I like the fact that through March, these resistance areas right here at, what was that, 1145, we tested it again, rejected again, but we were able to break it and had a nice move there. Even a really cool parabolic candle here that brought us all the way to 4,000 Satoshi very quickly, very quickly. But now we're back to some historic support here, and we held it. And now we're finding a little buying action here on Binance. So let's see. We need to hold. If we break on the down 1156, then all bets are off, and then basically everything is in play from there. But for now, I like this. This is continued bullish momentum here. Long term, that we're definitely seeing in Mana. I guess I'd like to go here from a shorter term perspective. Let's continue this run. Let's hold this line here. What else we got moving right now? EOS. So EOS has just had an amazing uptrend here. This is very interesting here. So let's just look at the weekly. I know this is a very small weekly here because there's not a whole lot of history. But you see, we started super bullish, went super bullish again. Kind of finding more support here at around 16,000 Satoshi. The RSI is cooled off. The stock RSI is turning bullish again. The OBV is very strong still. So we're leveling out, but we are finding support over these EMAs. We're clearly holding a nice trendline support here. We're probably going to test this area again, and we're probably going to break it on the down. I mean, this has been just a super bullish move here. I know there's a lead up to something happening in June. So let's talk about where kind of our historic support's going to be. So if we kind of draw here, we touched here, and you see how far above we are from our historic mean uptrend line, which right now I'd say is under 8,000 Satoshis. So we're almost double are basically bullish uptrend line here. So you see kind of where we are flirting with here. So there's a lot of downward potential here, but the bullishness continues. There's no reason to believe that this can't continue to go higher, but you just have to get an understanding of how wide we are in terms of above this bullish mean line here. Now the Bollingers and the dailies are tightening. I like that. You see how overbought we were when we pierced the upper Bollinger there. So this one is going to go sideways for a while. The longer we go sideways, the tighter those Bollingers can basically tighten up. And if it can hold up good against the downward pressure of Bitcoin, if there is, then that could be really reassuring to some continued move. Let's take a look at a couple more here. XMR, Monero. This one's looking kind of sketchy now. It's given up a lot of this bullish move, and quite volatile, mind you, too. We are basically back right now holding these historic supports around the 0.021 Satoshi area. We're back there again. We need to hold here. If we break this, the market is still trying to figure out the actual fair value pricing of Monero. Now the daily is showing the RSI has really cooled off a lot. That's good. The stock RSI actually is showing a little bullish intention. So we're coming off a very steep downtrend here and finding historic support in a historic area. You would hope for a bounce here. This is getting closer to an area where you'd want to find a bounce because of how important this area of support is here. Definitely keep an eye on that. The 4-hour suggests, nothing's overbought. We're kind of, again, showing this historic support area. I like this sideways action. Let's hold here. Let's allow these EMAs to catch up with this downward pressure here and allow for kind of a move higher. Let's take a look at a couple more here. Let's see here. What looks interesting? ZRX. So this one's been very interesting. This one had that super green day a couple of week ago, when Bitcoin had a very red day. What are we doing here? What kind of support and resistance lines are we finding? Now, I remember seeing right here this uptrend support line, which is held here right around, was that 14,000 Satoshi area? Come on. And that's, there we go. Retested again and held slightly and really trying to put in a higher high here. A higher low. So let's break bullish from this descending triangle, or is it like a legit bull pennant that we're putting in here, which would be great because that would basically allow potentially the entire flagpole's worth of action to go higher. This is a hot coin because it has a lot of volume regardless of what Bitcoin continues to do. And it's definitely holding a lot of its bullish intentions here. However, on the weekly, we can clearly see that after 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 continuous, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 green. We've had 2 red, we have 1 green. We still have more downward pressure in our weekly chart. Look how wide the Bollingers are. This is crazy wide here. So I believe we are still in a price discovery mode with ZRX. Its bullishness is, you look at the weekly, you get a better understanding of how kind of off the charts it is. We really want to test this trend line here at a lower point. That would basically set up a better longer term run. I just feel longer term over the next few weeks, it could be still in this overbought mode. We're seeing long wicks either way. So we could hold this bullish area here. Look at that. We're definitely holding this bullish area here. We could find support here for a while and then basically push higher. That'd be great. But if we end up breaking this, we're definitely going to test this historic trend line area here. Let's look at 1 or 2 more. Let's see what is interesting here. Let's see. No, Zen. Let's see. More. How about TRX? There we go. TRX weekly. Very similar to the ZRX chart we just looked at, where we have this longer term trend support. We have potentially another trend line test, which would help its bullishness. We see how wide the Bollingers are on the weekly there. Let's zoom into the 4-hour. We are finding support on the 200-day EMA, which I like. This has been kind of the EMA of this run here for a while. in terms of trying to find support on it. But you also see where our longer term trend line is. It's still a little lower here. We are finding significant resistance at about 1,000 from a psychological standpoint, and obviously from a historical standpoint, although we did crush it and hit 2,000 when we basically peaked at our all-time high there. Until we can break 1,000, we're not going any higher. Now, we did test it twice. There is precedent for a clear third test of this 1,000 level here. You can totally see it happening. You know, a ascending triangle corresponding with, boom, right there. History right there, right here, right here, right here, and now right here. You know, that's the bullish scenario where we're able to basically find support here at 8.25 Satoshi, retest this 1,000 level, and break it on the up. But there's a chance we could still go lower and test this support here and still be in a larger ascending triangle, which is fine. It just might take a little bit longer to break that 1,000 point. Again, this all corresponds to what happens with Bitcoin. So those are the majors. That was a couple alts. Oh, I do want to take a quick look at longs and shorts. Today's action, nothing crazy here. You know, we saw an uptick in Litecoin shorts and gave a lot of it back, and now it kind of is coming up again. Bitcoin longs, similarly, they're just not biting yet. Bitcoin shorts, you know, similarly, they're just not biting yet. Everybody's very neutral still, even as the volume deflates and the price kind of hangs in there. But for now, we're still seeing this kind of weakness in Bitcoin. This is a chart I put up on TradeView. I still feel like we're in this kind of wedge, this descending wedge here, where until we're able to break out of this, we're just not going to go bullish. And this wedge could basically exist for some time, and we could still find some bullish momentum to get us to 8,000 for sure. But that still keeps us in this bearish, descending, falling wedge resistance pattern that we're still looking at right here. So we can still remain in this area, and the chart can still be valid. You know, and if we do find support, if we do break 7,000, you know, I want to see support basically hold at around 67, 68 for a nice bounce there, and we'll kind of bounce around here for a while until we break this wedge. You know, nothing changes in the market. You know, and that's kind of what I'm looking at right now. I'm looking at that. I'm looking at the volume still continuously declining, you know, from our all-time highs. You know, so until the volume picks up, we're just not going to see a major change in the market. You know, so $100 moves are going to be kind of the name of the day. Let's go to CoinMarketCap. Now, every day I refresh my page, and every day there's more cryptocurrencies out there. 1635. That's Bitcoin and 1634 of its closest friends. So that's more money spread out on other coins. There's ICOs, there's pre-ICOs that aren't even part of this list that are also draining money, new money coming into crypto as a whole, draining from Bitcoin and from the stability of the market, you could argue. Trade over 11,000 markets, market cap 322 billion. We were at 430, 450, you know, 2 weeks ago. It's a big drop. Volumes a little under 16 billion in all of crypto, and Bitcoin's dominance is increasing to 39% as the alts sell off more bearishly. So we're seeing deflation in the alts. We're seeing a little less deflation in the price of Bitcoin, and that's why Bitcoin dominance has risen slightly. Let's take a closer look here. May 30th, which was yesterday's candle, under 5 billion. Today we're a hair under 5 billion, a little more, just a hair more volume today. Now we've seen where low volume areas basically show a willingness or a not a willingness to sell anymore. and that has basically allowed us to bounce. Could possibly be setting up for a little more continued bullishness here, because the selling may be drying up, but the buying's drying up too. Every bounce we keep seeing is just less and less. So I'll probably end it there. We basically have Bitcoin around 73.50 area here. You know, we're just not going to see a major move until we see real money flow come in. And because it's struggling to get anywhere right now, this is going to take some time. And the problem is people don't have a lot of patience. If people have entered long positions because they're trying to catch, they feel that 7,000 is held strong. The longer we go sideways, the more faith they might lose, the more faith they might lose in those positions, and they start liquidating and they start unloading. That's when the price can really tank. So keep an eye on it. Currently, for me, I'm really not in any positions right now. It's because I don't know. Like, there's so many variables here that could set the next stage for a couple $100 up, but more downward pressure is still there in the market. And until we see a big change, we're just not going to see a major change in Bitcoin. And Bitcoin is going to continue to dictate what happens to Litecoin, to Ether, to Bitcoin Cash, and to the alt market as a whole. Whew. Okay, so you guys can follow me on Twitter at BigChonas, and I'm also on TradeView at BigChonas. These are some of my thoughts right now on the current state of the crypto market. Hope you find any of this information interesting and informative. Let's see how it goes from there. I wish you all a safe and enjoyable evening, and hope to speak to you soon in any kind of future broadcast. Guys, have a good night. Talk to you later.